This is the Dave Elliott Show.
And good morning. It is Friday. We've made it through another week, almost, and I welcome you into the show at 7 o'clock. Live here on YouTube and DaveOnTheAir.com. I thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your day to hang with us this morning. It's mostly me today. We're going to be talking with Tony Ceresoli in a little while. He is the head man at Blessings in a Backpack, and he has some very cool stuff to tell us about Blessings and how they work with Sizzle Dining. As you know, Sizzle Dining is an exclusive sponsor, one of the 4 sponsors we have on the show, but he's an exclusive sponsor of giving away gift certificates, which we're going to start doing, I believe, on Monday, August 24th, $100 gift certificates to go eat at a Sizzle Dining restaurant. And I'm going to have some exciting news about who is eligible to win those gift certificates, because I'm going to make it very easy for you. So you're going to want to pay attention to that coming up throughout the next few days. A little housekeeping: in the event that we should lose our stream, which sometimes happens here due to internet irregularities, all you have to do is reload the page that you're currently on. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a little circle up in the top of your browser. It looks like a little circle with an arrow in it. And you hit that, and that should reload the page and bring up the program. If you're on DaveOnTheAir.com, you do exactly the same thing. We do stream the show live on DaveOnTheAir.com, as well as you can get it directly from YouTube, so that's pretty nice. I'm working on adding a method of streaming to Facebook as well, because I think there may be people on Facebook who might not know they have access to the show. You can also follow me on Instagram at The Dave Elliott Show and on Facebook at The Dave Elliott Show. And we appreciate any referrals you can make to people to join you or me on the show in the morning. You don't have to listen every morning. We hope you do. We try to make it worth your while to do so with entertaining and informative stuff. And maybe occasionally, who knows, I have all these cool sound effects here that I never use. For example, this one. I got a rim shot. Yeah, I mean, I actually have a rim shot. What do you think about that? Or if you're really feeling generous, all right, those are my neighbors finding out that I finally cut my grass. And then for just a little entertainment, I have a little music bed that I like to bring in once in a while. We're going to leave that one going here for just a little bit this morning. Some shoppers using the express lane at Publix can't count to 10. If you've ever been in the express lane, you know that's true. Well, now you don't have to. It looks like the supermarket chain is making some changes to the express lane, and I think this is big news that we're going to want to talk about this morning. They have ended the 10-item limit from the express lane. Now, while they've ended the limit, they haven't said what they're going to do to replace it. So that's a mystery. But they say rather than adhering to a specific item limit, our focus is on reducing wait times and ensuring customers can be served as efficiently as possible. That, according to Lindsay Willis, Publix's media relations manager for South and Central Florida. She didn't respond to how the express lanes would work without the item limit, which I think is a mystery. If you have an express lane and you've got a shopping cart and a half full of crap, how is that possibly an express lane and any different from any of the other lanes? But when the 10 items or less system worked, people with full carts would line up at the regular lanes, and those with just, a couple of things in their cart would zip in and out of the store quickly at the express lanes, except I have found that not to be the case. Publix said the new express lane policy, one without an item limit, would improve checkout efficiency. It sounds like what they're basically doing is getting rid of the express lanes and turning every lane into a regular lane. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes it more efficient or not, but it appears that that's what they're doing at Publix. Alejandro Irias is skeptical about that. He's a Publix shopper in Coral Gables. He didn't like the new policy, saying customers could feel stressed because what if someone just wants in and out of there really fast? I have a little secret you can do. If you've got an item or two and you're going to pick up a prescription, they'll take your items at the prescription counter. Did you know that? I mean, you don't want to have a full basket full of stuff. And anything that needs to be weighed, like, bananas and stuff, you can't do there. The other thing you can sometimes do is if there's no line at the customer service counter and you've only got one or two items, you can go there with that. I've discovered those two things do work. But I'm not sure how getting rid of the item limit at an express lane makes things more efficient at Publix. Do you? Let me know if you like this idea or not. 305-699-2665. If you're like me, you go there on a mission. I'm usually on a mission when I go to Publix. I know exactly what I want. I don't go browsing around the store. Oh, I think it would be nice to have that. I go in, I buy my stuff, I get out. I almost always use the express lane, but I have discovered that people who use the express lane only think it's express when they're in it and they can take their time. I was behind a guy 2 days ago at the express lane at my Publix. No, I'm sorry, I was not in the express lane. I beg your pardon. I was at the counter at the pharmacy picking up some stuff that I needed, and I went. You have to go to the front checkout, to do that. There was a guy in flip-flops. He had a wallet, but instead of having money in his wallet, he had his money in a paper container there. And by the way, somebody wants to weigh in on this morning. You can probably hear the phone ringing. So what I'm going to do is take the call. Good morning. You're on the air. What do you have to say?
Yes, as far as the idea of the express lane, is the fact that Publix isn't stupid. We know that because they definitely sell product at high prices. So what they're saying is to have somebody at a 10-item lane as an employee, you can imagine how much they got to pay them an hour. And just a few items are constantly going through that. So the idea is less employees, fine. Less employees, less money to expend on them, and just let everybody go through the regular lane, whether they got one item or 200 items. That's basically what they're doing. Now, you've got the self-checkout, so that's the other way you go for something with just a few items. That's what I do every day.
Well, my Publix doesn't have a self-checkout, unfortunately.
But they're putting them in most of them. So, I mean, I live downtown, and I can go either direction, to the East Trail, the North Trail, or the downtown by Coastal Mall, and those have self-checkout. So I would say most of them probably have them by now. They've been building them for the past 6-7 years.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Maybe I'll have to switch my Publix to one that has a self-checkout so that I can do that, because I prefer that, actually.
Oh, they're great. I never go through with having somebody at the register. I do check an express checkout whether I got, again, like one item or if I've got 20 items,
Yeah.
It works great.
All right. Well, thank you for the call.
Sure.
Appreciate it very much. All right. There you go. There's another party heard from this morning saying, hey, you know what? You can use the self-checkout, and Publix seems to know what they're doing with these express lanes. They're in it to make money and be as profitable as possible, and nobody can argue with that, by the way. I can't anyway. So if you want to weigh in on it, I'd like to get your thoughts as well at area code 305-699-2665. Maybe I'm wondering why my Publix does not have a self-checkout or does not have self-checkout. At the time that the Publix was built, that I'm at, it was the biggest Publix in Collier County. It's at the corner of Santa Barbara and Radio Roads. It was the biggest Publix in the area. It's no longer the biggest Publix. It is a very nice one, and I love going there because I know exactly where everything is now that I need to get on a regular basis. But anyway, I was telling you before we got the call, and please feel free to give me a call or text me if you want to on this subject, because I have to tell you the truth. I am an express lane person, so I was in line at the drugstore. Do we call them drugstores anymore? I guess some of us do. This guy has a flip-flops, had his wallet with a little envelope full of money that he got from the bank, and he pulls out whatever, I don't know how much it was. Let's say it was $27.39. He reaches into his pocket. He spends at least 2 minutes picking through the quarters and the pennies and the dimes to come up with the 39 cents that he needed. And I'm thinking to myself, why? I honestly, to be honest with you, I use my phone to pay for a lot of stuff at the checkout. When you go to Publix, if you have Apple Pay or you have a Google Pay thing on your phone, you just touch your phone to the little terminal there, and while they're checking you out, it authorizes you to pay for your groceries. And as soon as they hit the total key, it pops out a receipt and you're on your way and you've saved. That's, to me, that's express. When, as a customer, you get in and out in a hurry. My thanks to the caller this morning. If you think this is a good idea for them to take the 10 item limit away from the express lane, let me know at 305-699-2665. You can call or text at that number, and we will, as you can readily see, take your call. I didn't have my phone plugged into my little device here, so I apologize for the low audio quality, but I just fixed it because I am efficient. Now, apparently a couple of people were surveyed by the Miami Herald who are shoppers, and they don't use the express lanes. They use, as our caller did, the self-checkout. Now, some Publix locations have not yet changed the signs that remove the 10-item limit. Without the limit, the supermarket said the policy change will provide associates with greater flexibility in managing customer flow. But what Willis, the spokesperson for Publix, didn't say was whether express lane cashiers would have the option to direct customers with many items to get in a different checkout lane. Now, I have seen this happen before. I've gone to Publix, and I only had, the you know how they'll stand by the entry to the checkout lane if there's nobody there, saying I'm open, basically. I've had the experience where even though I have a full cart, the express lane guy will wave me over to his lane if there's nobody in it, figuring, well, it's only express if he needed to be express, and he whipped me through there like nobody's business. So I'm mixed on this. I'm going to miss the express lane, and maybe I have the only Publix in town that doesn't have its self-checkout. I don't know. But let's get on the ball, Publix, and put a self-checkout at Santa Barbara and Radio Road and help us all out. So there's a noteworthy item for you this morning. As you probably have been watching, if you watch any TV at all, the Atlantic is beginning to heat up, as it does every year about this time for hurricane season. But as of this morning, forecasters have reduced the odds of that one system that came off Africa of developing into anything from 80% to 30%. So that's pretty good news. And as it stands right now, with the amount of wind shear that's out in the Atlantic, the amount of Saharan dust and dry air that's there, it's unlikely that either of the two systems that are heading in our general direction when they get here will be anything more than maybe just some thunderstorms. Not anything severe, not a wind event or anything. That's what they're thinking right now. They're still watching stuff, but it looks like at the present time, Nothing that's going to threaten us to worry about. And that, my friend, is good news to be sure. There's Invest 92L, about 650 miles east of the Lesser Antilles. An area designated an Invest doesn't necessarily guarantee tropical development, but it does mean they'll be gathering data on it to make sure that they know what they're talking about. Invest stands for investigation, by the way. As compared to earlier this week, the disturbance is looking less organized, and the National Hurricane Center has dropped development chances to 30% in the most recent update. As the disturbance approaches the Lesser Antilles, the environment will become even more hostile for development because of wind shear. And then there's the other one, 94L, heading west over the Atlantic. That's the other one I told you about, but nothing to worry about with either one of these two systems. So it looks like the prognostication of a less active hurricane season is coming true because of El Nino, the super El Nino, actually, that is happening over the Pacific Ocean. Not good news for Hawaii. There is a tropical system that is going to skirt Hawaii either as a strong tropical storm or a hurricane. And this is at the same time that Mount Kilauea is erupting. So I saw in the news last night they're saying that if this should happen, could be a big steam bath for the people in Hawaii with heavy, heavy rains. And they're looking at maybe 20 inches of rain hitting the Big Island, hitting the molten lava and creating huge amounts of steam. This could be quite a development. So keep your eye on that. We're going to take a break, but on the other side, if you have guests coming in to visit and they stay at a hotel, are you okay with them helping to pay for the Paradise Coast Sports Complex? We'll talk about that after this.
You've got Dave Elliott.
A minute out for Alice Sweetwaters. You know how much I love Alice's? Well, let me tell you how much I love Alice's. For the last 22 years, I have been telling everybody I can about how great Alice Sweetwaters is. From their fresh-made seafood dishes to their incredible bar, their wild wine list, the ability to eat indoors or outdoors, and I might add, some pretty darn nice gazpacho, you will find exactly what you're looking for at Alice Sweetwaters. Try the shrimp wontons, for example. They're absolutely fantastic. Or the little mini sliders, or the grouper fish and chips, or the grouper dinner, or the grouper Reuben. You get my drift? There's a lot of stuff going on at Alice Sweetwaters, including the best sandwich in America, the Lobster Reuben. Check it all out at the corner of Airport Road and Glades Boulevard. Alice Sweetwaters, where they serve crabs, shrimps, and big people.
Have you finally found your dream home, or are you looking to refinance or pull equity from your home? Then call Alpha Title Services of Florida. Don't let fraud or hidden property issues, such as liens, unpaid taxes, boundary mistakes, or a cloud on title, to name a few, ruin your big day. That's why you need Alpha Title Services in your corner. They do the deep digging to complete your contract conditions and assure your title is clear in order to provide the ultimate protection on your family's investment. Before you sign on the dotted line, make sure your future will be truly yours by contacting Alpha Title Services at 239-260-1495. To protect your dream, let your realtor or lender know you choose Alpha Title Services of Florida to handle all of your closing needs. Trust the people who have been serving the real estate community since 1999. Trust the people you can call to ask questions before signing your contract. Trust Alpha Title Services of Florida. Online at alphatitleservices.com or call 239-260-1495.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
When Dave talks, his lips actually move. Dave Elliott.
Thank you very much for hanging out with us this morning. It's Friday, the 14th day of August for 2026. We're almost halfway through the month. And I just heard from the person who knows more than anybody where the self-checkout lanes are, Tim Ayton, who tells me the Publix in the neighborhood shops at Orange Tree, at Randall, and Immokalee Road does also not have self-checkout lanes. So darn, I was hoping we were the only ones. I wonder, maybe we should get a petition going. What do you think? We want self-checkout lanes, and we want the potholes fixed. I don't know, just an idea. So what do you think about this plan? The Collier County Board of Commissioners, or the Board of Collier County Commissioners, I guess is the proper way to say that, wants to raise the guest tourist tax from 5% to 6%. Now, you might be saying, what's a penny? And I don't have to pay that myself, so why isn't this a good idea? And I'm not saying it isn't a good idea, but I just wanted to throw it out there for your perusal this morning. The reason they want to put another penny on the tourist or bed tax is so that they can finish construction of the already $120 million or so Paradise Coast Sports Complex. They estimate it will take about $40 to $50 million to add some football fields, I guess soccer fields rather, and baseball or softball fields. Let me tell you exactly what they want to put up there. They want to put 5 softball and 6 baseball diamonds in place. So what they're going to do is have a bunch of public meetings, 12 of them, beginning in late August, and try to get you to weigh in on whether you think this is a good idea or not. Again, you as a resident, or we as residents, would not pay any of this tourist or bed tax increase. The money would be levied against people who stay for 6 months or less at VRBOs or, I guess, hotels or, places like that. Now, there would also be a field house that would double as an emergency shelter, particularly for hurricanes. I don't know if this field house would be big enough to hold volleyball tournaments, but being a former volleyball dad, I appreciate the fact that you can go to places and have volleyball tournaments where they can have as many as, say, 10 or 12 matches going on at the same time. Maybe that's what the field house would be for. I don't know. But the real reason that I'm bringing this up is because if you build a facility and you budget for it, why do you need to increase taxes to continue to build the facility? Why not allocate it in the budget process right along and not rely on tourists to pay for it? It apparently would be on the books for between 4 and 5 years, and it would either then sunset or somebody else will come up with another idea for why they need to increase the tourist tax. You want to weigh in on this? I know you're saying, well, hey, it doesn't affect me because I don't stay in a hotel and I don't rent out a VRBO or whatever what's the other, Airbnb? I guess that's the other one. 305-699-2665. If you have a thought on that, you can text me or call me at that number. I'd be happy to take your calls. My initial reaction to this is, no big deal. A penny. If you're paying 5% tax on a $350 a night stay, well, I had to pick $350, didn't I? Let's say $300 a night stay. If you're paying a 5% tax, what is that, $15? So if you were paying a 6% tax, that would be $18 in taxes you're paying. Is that enough? Is it too much? Is it too little? What is the deal? But the plan is to get your opinion from around the county and see what you think about this idea. Now, apparently by law, the county cannot advocate or promote a point of view about this tax. They can't, in other words, they can't run ads saying, we're the county and we think you ought to do this. They have to remain neutral and just give out basic factual information and let you decide for yourself. So they can't really lobby for this. They can't publicly advocate. They can only suggest, we could put it on the books and it's up to you to decide. I'm also guessing, I don't know if this is a fact or not, because I don't think the article says, but I think it's a referendum. It does say it goes on the ballot, so it's apparently a referendum, which means you would get a chance to vote on it. And it would bring Collier more in line with other places around the state that also, use tourist taxes to fund various tourist projects. To qualify for a 1% increase, you have to be something called high tourism impact status. That's law in Florida. And that means you have to collect more than $30 million in tourist taxes a year. Believe it or not, Collier County last year hit $30 million in tourist taxes. We'll try to get some feedback from the county next week on this and let you know what they say. And we're trying to get a hold of Commissioner Bill McDaniel, get him on, or maybe Bert Saunders, who's out of the country right now, I know, and we'll be back soon, and we'll maybe have him on when we get him available to us by phone. Normally on Fridays, we would be presenting you with the lovely and talented Chelsea Murphy about this time. She is our entertainment editor, always has something interesting to say, but unfortunately for us, fortunately for her, she is heading up to parts unknown for a little R&R, so she'll be back with us next week, and I just wanted to let you know if you're expecting to hear her this morning. I only realized last week my calendar error when I promoted her being on the show this morning, but she'll be back with us next Friday. I understand she's going to be on the road next Friday, but I think we're going to have a way to connect, so that'll be fun. In other news this morning, not of a local nature, but certainly noteworthy, text messages shared with a website called Midas News, MEIDAS. I don't know if you've heard of them before, but they're kind of like I hate to say political, but they are political. They're kind of a political website. But they got a hold of some text messages from a family member of a service member currently deployed aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. Have you been following this deal? Well, this text message, or series of them, paint a kind of a bleak picture of daily life on board the Abraham Lincoln, more than 8 months into a deployment that was supposed to end in May, and instead has no announced return date, although I guess they have now announced that they are heading back to San Diego and will be replaced by, I believe it's the USS George Washington. The sailor's identity, the one who sent the text messages, is being withheld to protect them from being retaliated against. The family member asked in one exchange, and I have a printout of the exchange here, why isn't there milk? The sailor explained the ship's supply runs simply can't keep perishables fresh long enough to make the trip out to the carrier. So the supply ship that comes here can't bring fruits and stuff because it won't stay fresh long enough with the time it takes them to get here, the sailor wrote. So we haven't had anything fresh but meat because it's, his word, not mine, freezed. I think he meant frozen. Sometimes it gets here rotten. The meat, I guess. In a separate message, the sailor sent a photo of a plastic container of what looks like cereal, writing, quote, "Hey, honey, I'm eating cereal right now. Wish there was milk, too. Haven't had milk in 3 months." He's eating cereal dry in one of those little Tupperware things. The sailor also described a deployment that veteran crew members are calling unlike anything they've ever experienced. He said, "This deployment is the worst one, and I pray no other boat goes through the same. Even people that have been deployed 100 times claim this one to be the worst and believe it can get worse than this. The Navy does not care. The mission will always come first," he said. In the same message, he relayed a conversation with another crew member saying, quote, "I was talking to some random dude at the smoke pit, and he was saying it's an experiment the government is doing to see how far they can push sailors' limits of being out to sea with the worst experience." The sailor was careful to frame this as something someone else said, not a claim the sailor is personally making, adding, "IDK, I don't know anymore." The sailor went on to describe the emotional toll of the extended deployment, saying, "I know my family needs me, and the Navy is not being fair right now, taking me away for longer than expected. Worst part, my expectations were already at an all-time low, but as per usual, the Navy beat these two by going lower than hell," he said. So there's that. I saw a comment from Pete Hegseth yesterday in which he's the Department of Defense Secretary, in which he basically said, this is categorically not true, and we're doing all we can to help people, and we take good care of our people. So there's that. I think our service people deserve better if it turns out it's true. And why would a guy send a text message to his family member with photos if it wasn't true? Members of Congress, meanwhile, they're really doing their jobs now. They're outsourcing their work to artificial intelligence without much, if any, oversight or limits, according to reporting from NewRepublic.com. Staffers and legislators are using AI chatbots to write speeches and news releases, manage mail from constituents, draft questions for congressional hearings, and even draft amendments, according to the Washington Post. The Senate and the House have cleared staffers to use ChatGPT, Microsoft's Copilot, and Google's Gemini, with the House also approving something called Claude. Last year, the House bought 6,000 Copilot licenses, encouraging staffers to use them. How come until there was AI, they were getting along just fine, but now that there's AI, they are really pushing to use them? And yet, don't we hear congressional candidates and others railing against data centers, which are used to power these AI large language models? Something doesn't make sense to me. If they're railing against using AI to build, to build data centers to use AI, how come it's okay to use AI? Do they think it just magically drops in from the Capitol dome? I wonder. Senators and representatives regularly use the services themselves. Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville asks ChatGPT questions about issues such as Medicare and Medicaid while driving across his home state of Alabama. Oh, that must be entertaining. He said it's kind of like You can sit there and talk to an expert. He said, you don't know whether or not they're 100% correct, but they put you on the right path, he went on to say. Republican Representative Mike Flood asked a chatbot where private equity was buying single-family homes while working on a bipartisan housing bill last year. And then there's Elizabeth Warren, the Democratic senator from Massachusetts, who supports stricter regulations on tech companies, but has used ChatGPT to look up demographic information. So apparently they all figured out. Nobody will ever know unless the Washington Post gets a hold of it and creates a story, which apparently the Washington Post did. Congressional staffers aren't clear about if there are any limits on using the bots. One staffer uses Copilot to draft bill amendments, while another fed all of his phone contacts and text messages going back years into Claude and told it to build a database of reporters, including what he pitched them, what they accepted, and what went badly. Claude also runs the communications budget of that congressional office, overseeing taxpayer-funded mailers and all ads sent to constituents. The staffer isn't really sure what congressional rules allow for AI use, so I guess he's just going ahead and doing it, and it's figuring it's better to ask forgiveness than ask permission. So, at $14,000 a month, plus staff expenses and free office space rent, your congressmen and senators are using AI to do their jobs. How about we talk about something a little less bad, but not good? I don't know why I've got all these sort of sour stories this morning, but I do. Wendy's, nearly 2 years of struggles competing with the likes of McDonald's and Taco Bell and places like Shake Shack, apparently our struggles are competition are creating a big problem. Franchisees are closing their Wendy's locations and heading for the hills. Buried inside Wendy's second quarter earnings call last week, which is described by Yahoo Finance as brutal, was a mention that 289 locations closed in the U.S. during the first half of the year. There are about 5,700 Wendy's in the U.S. So that's about, 5%? Doesn't sound like U.S. closures will be abating anytime soon. CEO Bob Wright said, understand that the health of franchisees certainly is pressured right now because of the sales declines that we have had. He said, you guys know the business. When you see some of the sales declines, it's going to show up in restaurant profitability. It's going to pressure the franchisees and create a little bit of fragility there. When it comes to closures, I think you heard in some previous quarters was closures addressed more as a program for the system. You will see us take a much more targeted approach. We're going to come alongside our franchisees if they need our help. But in the meantime, they've closed about 5% of their restaurants. While, on the other hand, McDonald's has seen its United States growth slow, not necessarily on the other hand, but they have seen their United States growth slow and has made significant changes, including replacing the longtime president. CEO Christopher Kempczinski talked about the company's shortfalls during its second quarter earnings call. Turning to the U.S. after a solid start to the year, the business slowed significantly, posting comparable sales growth of 0.8% in the quarter. They said this was below our expectations and something we're going to address in greater detail on today's call. We don't have a strategy problem. We simply don't execute at the level we need to in the second quarter, he said. Now, he did point out to some specific changes that chain will make to get back on track, and he put them in three buckets. If you're a consumer of McDonald's product, you probably are interested in this. First, he said, although we've restored our overall value and affordability leadership, our restaurant-level results show that execution was inconsistent across the system, and I found that to be true. Second, he said our restaurant teams are overwhelmed by too many deployments in the quarter, which led to less efficient restaurant operations. This impacted customer service times, and as service times went up, satisfaction scores went down. And then he said, third, our marketing programs didn't deliver against expectations, I guess meaning we tried stuff and it didn't work. To fix the problem, they've introduced an ambitious program called McDonald's Next. He said the program is a new growth strategy with a clear ambition to be more customers' first choice. I don't know. Is it that important that McDonald's always be the leader in value? Is it important to have decent tasting and food with is semi-nutritious? I would argue that if you're putting out a good product, people are going to know about it, and they're going to show up, right? If you build it, they will come, that kind of thing. I think you look at these programs, we have to have a new program called Next to effectively serve our customers. Well, how about you make a product people want to buy, and they go there and buy it, and then you let them know about it so they know that it's there, that they can buy it. Remember 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun? Remember that jingle from way back when? Of course you do. Because it was catchy, they ran it all the time, and it worked. It was also descriptive of what the product was, which was a big plus. And it was catchy on top of all that. Maybe it's time to stop trying to be all things to all people and do what you do best. Make hamburgers and milkshakes and sell a lot of them. You know, you look at Five Guys as an example of this philosophy. You go to Five Guys, and what can you get? Hamburgers and French fries and drinks. That's it. Oh, they have a veggie sandwich. What they do is they take the stuff that they would normally put on your hamburger and they stick a little cheese in with it. They put it on the grill and stick it in a bun. But they're not reinventing the wheel. That's what I love about Five Guys. You go in there, you get a hamburger. Oh, yeah, you can get a cheeseburger and you can get a double hamburger and a double cheeseburger. I don't know. Do they have hot dogs too? Maybe they do. I don't know. If they do, that's fine. That falls in the hamburger hot dog wheelhouse. But they're not doing gourmet muffins and signature drinks and energy stuff and protein this and feta cheese that. They're just doing what they do best, and they're doing it super well. Why can't McDonald's be that way? We got chicken sandwiches, we got McNuggets, we got the Burger King, we got the what do they call it? The Big Mac. We got the shakes. I mean, there's just so many chicken sandwiches, wraps. I get it. The market changes. But maybe you could concentrate on your core product, get that to the point where it is a work of art, and then do variations on that. We're starting the next program to improve the quality of our restaurant. Just give them the stuff that you're good at doing. That's really all you got to do. Out of Clayton County, Georgia, a man from Cartersville, Georgia, said ICE agents wrongly detained him at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. And guess what was involved in this? Would you be surprised to learn there may have been some AI involved in this? The American Citizen told WSB-TV's Ashland Webb that he's still shaken by what happened. John Phillips, not the guy from the Mamas and the Papas, had made it through TSA, had his ID checked, and went through facial recognition before agents stopped him as he was boarding. I'll never approach a door of an aircraft without wondering if there's guys standing back there, he said. It was supposed to be a routine work trip to Las Vegas, but a Delta agent told him the airline was working to upgrade his seat. He just needed to board last. Phillips said 3 ICE agents in tactical gear stopped him in the jet bridge, pinned him to the wall, and put him in handcuffs. He says he didn't resist, but he told them he was an American citizen. They cuffed me and they started asking me, "What's your name? What's your birthday?" he said. He says after about 5 minutes in handcuffs, agents found his Georgia ID and showed him a picture of the man they were actually looking for. Phillips said he looks nothing like me other than he's a white guy and I'm a white guy. Agents told him the other man was from England but shared his name and birthday. Immigration attorney Charles Cuck said ICE still must have probable cause to make an arrest. There's no probable cause here. A matching name and birth date is not probable cause. So Phillips now wants to know how this happened. He said, "I'm just flabbergasted at all the security we have at the airport. They don't know that I'm the John Phillips that lives in Georgia and is not an English guy," he said. Or he probably said, "English guy." Delta released a statement which read in part, "Delta employees do not have insight into or control over law enforcement decisions, and our role is to ensure flights operate safely and customers are treated with respect. We're reviewing this event internally and are reaching out to the customer directly." Well, obviously, Delta had nothing to do with it. ICE confirmed the incident and shared a statement with Channel 2 News. I am guessing that facial recognition was probably used and failed, even though they didn't look anything alike, these two guys. Enough already. And by the way, isn't ICE supposed to be arresting and deporting the worst of the worst, the criminals, the guys who have killed people and pillaged and raped and done other things? Isn't that what they're supposed to be doing? I thought it was. I could be wrong, but I thought it was. Okay, it's about 7:47. When we come back, you'll find this fascinating. Why haven't we found any aliens yet? If they're out there, stay there.
You've got Dave Elliott.
When it comes to your health, there's no cookie cutter way to do things. Each person is individualized in their needs and their desires, and that's the case with your hearing too. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, with 2 locations in Naples, one in Colonial Square off Goodlette Frank Road, the other in the Vanderbilt Commons at Vanderbilt and Collier Boulevard, are here to help you. They help you with individualized treatment. You go in for a free hearing evaluation, and if you should happen to need a little help from a hearing device, they can offer you the exact device you need, the exact technology you need for your particular needs. Don't let your hearing get in the way of enjoying your life. They even have devices that can cut out the background noise if you're in a big crowd someplace. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, I've been going to them for years, and I know you should too. Believe me, you will notice the difference right away. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, online at napleshearingcenter.com.
Are you ready for a culinary experience like no other? Mark your calendars for the event of the season. Sizzle Dining is happening starting September 1st through the 30th. Picture this, a world of flavors, a celebration of taste, and a chance to make a difference in our community. Savor delectable dishes, expertly crafted by top chefs, each plate telling a story of passion and creativity. But that's not all. Sizzle Dining benefits Blessings in a Backpack of Southwest Florida, a charity dedicated to ensuring no child has a hungry weekend. Dine with purpose. Every time you indulge in the exquisite offerings during Sizzle Dining, a portion of the proceeds will go directly to Blessings in a Backpack. So gather your loved ones, invite your friends, and come experience culinary excellence while making a meaningful impact. Share your moments with #DineWithPurpose. Sizzle Dining, taking place the entire month of September, where taste, compassion, and community come together in perfect harmony. Reserve your table today, because with Sizzle Dining, every bite counts and every meal matters.
Hello, this is Melissa Blazier, your Collier County Supervisor of Elections, with an important message about the primary election. Collier County voters can cast their ballot early for the primary election. Polls are open daily from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. through August 15th, and locations and wait times are posted on the Supervisor of Elections website. Voters who requested a vote by mail ballot can also drop off their voted ballot at any early voting location across the county. For more information, please visit colliervotes.gov or call 239-252-8683.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
He's reached that age where his brain goes, "You probably shouldn't say that," to "I can't wait to see where this goes." Dave Elliott.
Welcome back to the show on Friday morning. 7:50 is our time. When we get further into the show, we're going to be talking with a man named Tony Ceresoli, who is with Blessings in a Backpack. You know, they're big beneficiaries of the Sizzle Dining experience, which is happening beginning in September. And in a couple of weeks, about a week from Monday, actually, we're going to be giving you a chance to win a $100 dining certificate at a Sizzle Dining restaurant in Southwest Florida. You're going to love that. So I hope you'll hang with us this morning to hear what Tony has to say. Of course, we're going to also be playing the impossible question later on this morning, where someone will have a chance to win a $25 gift certificate to Alice Sweetwater's as well. So, as I teased before the break, during a visit to the Los Alamos National Laboratory in 1950, so this goes back 76 years, Enrico Fermi, one of the architects of the Manhattan Project, was having lunch with other physicists when the conversation turned to flying saucers. Yeah, 1950. At one point during the discussion, Fermi blurted out, "Where is everybody?" Or, as another participant remembered it, "Don't you ever wonder where everybody is? If aliens exist, in other words, why have we never encountered them? Not all aliens can be clever enough to evade detection over these many years." Well, the episode has become famous, marking the moment when extraterrestrial life went from a kind of a theme for philosophical speculation to a serious scientific problem. For centuries, people had wondered whether life exists on the moon or Mars, but they accepted that we would never know for certain, since making contact with another planet was, well, impossible due to the vast distances to be traveled and the fact that we don't have a propellant of any sort that can get us there in anybody's lifetime. By the 1950s, those limits no longer seemed so fixed. In addition to spaceflight, researchers were developing tools to detect the radio signals that reach us from stars many light years away. These developments were still in their infancy, but it was already clear that humanity was no longer bound to Earth the way it always had been. This expansion of human horizons raised kind of an awkward question. Since the 16th century, when Copernicus showed the Earth was not the center of the cosmos, modern science had learned to embrace the idea that there is nothing unique about our planet, and if Earth is statistically average, there's no reason why it should be the only home of intelligent life. I completely 100% agree with this treatise, which is why I'm reading it to you. Given the age of the universe, which is estimated to be a little less than 14 billion years, 13.8 billion to be precise, it should be full of species with technology far more advanced than what we have come up with in a few thousand years of civilization, yet we can't find any trace of them. Well, that was the case in 1950, and it still is today, despite well-publicized claims to the contrary. Since 2017, when the New York Times reported that the U.S. military possessed video recordings of pilots' encounters with UFOs, aliens have pretty much gone mainstream. You see them in movies all the time. The House of Representatives even held hearings on what are now called unidentified anomalous phenomena as a potential national security threat. But the blurry and inconclusive Pentagon UFO videos have not been followed by any clear images of non-human craft, such as earlier waves of UFO sightings never produced any unambiguous evidence. You know that. Isn't it interesting that every single video or photo of what they say is a UFO is so blurry that you can't tell what it is, and maybe it's a bug on the lens. The first serious effort to detect radio signals from alien civilizations in deep space was made in 1960 when the American astronomer Frank Drake conducted an experiment he called Project Ozma. Using a telescope at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in West Virginia, Drake looked for signals at a precise location in the electromagnetic spectrum, 1420 megahertz, known as the hydrogen line, because hydrogen atoms emit photons at that frequency. Well, because hydrogen is so abundant in the universe, the line is easy for radio telescopes to detect. In a 1959 paper, astronomers Giuseppe Ciccone and Philip Morrison argued that this fact would be discovered at an early stage in the development of radio astronomy by any technical civilization as it was by human beings. That made it likely, they reasoned, that any species looking to broadcast radio signals to attract the attention of cosmic neighbors would choose to do so at 1420 megahertz. All hits, all the time, 1420 megahertz, space radio. But though Project Ozma spent 150 hours observing two relatively nearby stars similar in size to our sun, it detected no unusual activity at the hydrogen line. By contrast, you've got to ask yourself, though, what if they were looking in our direction using that same measurement of 1420 megahertz? What would they see? Would they go, hey, there's Earth over there. There's a bunch of people hanging out trying to find us? I mean, what is it that we expect to see? Well, in 1971, NASA put a panel of experts together to study the best ways to search for extraterrestrial life. Their report, called Project Cyclops, was published the next year and has remained a kind of Bible for the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, since shortened to SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. The report called for the construction of the Cyclops system, an orchard of antennas 10 kilometers to 10 miles in diameter, if you can imagine an antenna 10 miles in diameter, and containing 1,000 to maybe 2,500 antennas. Such an array would scan the sky 200,000 times faster than Ozma. The cost of building Cyclops was estimated at $10 to $25 billion, the equivalent of $77 to $192 billion today, making it about as expensive as the Apollo program. It was never built, needless to say, and Congress ended NASA's modest funding for SETI projects in 1993. Well, since then, all U.S. efforts have been privately funded, mainly by one of the co-founders of Microsoft, the billionaire Paul Allen, and Yuri Milner, a Soviet-born entrepreneur. Advances in computer technology mean that the civilizations have mean that the efforts haven't really resulted in anything. So are they out there? And if so, where are they? And if not, why not? Are they so far technically advanced that they can remain invisible or hidden from us? I mean, what the what? It does raise a lot of questions, doesn't it? If there are technically advanced civilizations in the universe, why are they not making themselves known? Are they following what the Vulcans did in Star Trek and saying we won't contact any civilizations until they reach a certain threshold of technology so that we know they're going to handle it properly when they discover that we're out there? I mean, that's a possibility, isn't it? They know stuff we don't know, and if we knew what they knew, we would maybe do some damage to ourselves and other species. I think that's an entirely possible thing. Is it even plausible to assume that there are other intelligent beings in the universe? You might have religious beliefs that say absolutely not. But I think scientifically it only makes sense that if we're here, some other planet, somewhere else in some other part of the galaxy, certainly must exist. That's just my take on it. certainly must exist. Something to ponder on a Friday morning. Blood tests to protect Alzheimer's are causing confusion and distress, according to a piece in the New York Times recently. And they cite a woman named Beth, who's now 58, their last name being withheld to provide for confidentiality. But in 2018, Beth's mother died of Alzheimer's disease at 75. It was terrible, she said. And once you've gone through that, she added, you start to become concerned about your own future. Well, a year ago, Beth, who's now 58, learned about a new blood test for Alzheimer's. Her primary care doctor agreed to order the test in June, given her family history. It found the levels of a protein called p-tau 217 were elevated, suggesting she had early signs of Alzheimer's in her brain. She said, I would love to say it was a complete shock, but it wasn't. She said, I don't want to sound all doom and gloom. I feel like it's coming for me. A neurologist ran several follow-up tests and found that Beth's cognition was normal. The doctor also told her the blood tests aren't 100% definitive. He said, that makes you feel better, Beth said, but when it throws a lot more question marks into the whole situation too. Questions like, what does the future hold? Will she be a burden to her family? How long can she keep working? If she doesn't travel to Paris next year, will she ever be able to go? Well, 2 blood biomarker tests for Alzheimer's were approved by the Food and Drug Administration last year to help diagnose people who are experiencing cognitive impairment. More and more people without memory problems are taking the tests as well to try to determine whether they will develop Alzheimer's in the future. Some buy them through direct-to-consumer lab testing sites. Others are referred by a doctor. However, dementia experts almost universally say the tests aren't ready to be used in this way, and they recommend against doing so. Dementia experts say don't get the blood tests. For some patients, the results are devastating. You can imagine you'd be scared and feel pretty helpless knowing there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to wait for it to overtake you. Others view them as empowering and have jumped into action to try to improve their overall health and get their affairs in order. And many, like Beth, are confused about what their results actually mean. Very quickly, the tests measure blood levels of 2 proteins, amyloid and tau, and become dysfunctional in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. One test in particular, called p-tau 17 that I mentioned earlier, for the form of protein it measures, correlates especially well with amyloid, which can accumulate decades before someone starts to experience cognitive impairment. P-tau 217 is quickly becoming the preferred predictive test. A study published last month in the journal JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, found that cognitively normal people with very high levels of p-tau 217 had a 32% chance of developing memory and thinking problems within 5 years and a 78% chance in 10 years. So talk to your doctor if you have concerns. Talk to your family if you have concerns, and decide whether or not it's for you. I think that only you will know how you'll handle it if it turns out to be something you don't want to see. And maybe it's a slip up, not where I'm onto a new subject now. Maybe it's the slip up America seems to need right now. I don't know if you heard about this, but over the past few days, Tony Bratton has gone viral for accidentally saying something not safe for work while showing off a wig during a QVC broadcast. Bratton is speaking about the wig in the clip before quickly realizing she accidentally used an euphemism for oral sex. Instead of blow out, she said blow you know what. She then tries and fails to suppress her laughter as she collapses on the floor in embarrassment. She opened up about the moment, which has almost 30 million views or more on Instagram, in an interview with TMZ. She said, I know in my case, sometimes you never really know what's going to come out of my mouth, she told the outlet. She said, while hosting QVC, your brain has to be thinking of several things at once with means and mistakes are bound to happen. She said, the moment it comes out, you almost say to yourself, did I just say what I think I said? I think that's funny. The internet's been loving the story, making jokes, sharing reactions, commiserating with her. Maybe more importantly, the story of her flub has become a welcome contrast for many from the otherwise more upsetting stories in the news right now. Difficult reports like the ongoing Lindsay Clancy murder trial, which I haven't paid any attention to, conflict in the Middle East, which I do pay attention to, and even the death of that eagle, the Jackie the Eagle. Have you heard about that? Her blooper might be just the mental break we need right now. Funny stuff. Even the pros can say stuff. There have been instances of news anchors in New York and other major markets saying things, particularly weathercasters. I don't know if you've ever thought about this or not. When you watch a weather forecast on TV, you realize that the person doing that is basically ad-libbing. They're not reading from a script like the newscasters do. They're talking off the top of their heads. I mean, yeah, they know what they're going to talk about. They've studied the information. They know what the data is. But still, they are talking off the top of their heads. In other words, they're making it up as they go along. And for them not to occasionally make a blooper, make a mistake, would seem almost impossible, wouldn't it? You'd think it would have to happen. So we can all have a good laugh over it, but I don't think anybody should get too crazy. And besides that, QVC, blowout or not, or job or whatever, QVC is not regulated by the FCC, so the only thing that can happen is some people can send angry letters. And happy birthday today to the Smithsonian. Founded 180 years ago this week. It was actually August 10th. It is named for British scientist James Smithson, who willed his fortune to the United States to establish the institution, even though he never visited America. The Smithsonian is the world's largest museum and research complex, made up of 27 museums and galleries, the National Zoo, 9 research centers, currently has 155 million items in its collections. Pre-pandemic in 2019, it hosted 22.1 million visitors, and now they're trying to mess with it by changing some of the signage and some of the history. A man in India has been charged after attempting to use a fake boarding pass created with ChatGPT at an airport. Initially intended as a prank for a friend, the document was flagged by airport staff during routine checks due to inconsistencies. The man generated a realistic-looking ticket that included flight details and passenger information. When he presented it for verification, airport systems did not match it with any actual booking, leading to denied entry and what they call, euphemistically, police involvement. You can imagine. I don't think it doesn't say whether he intentionally used it or whether he maybe mistakenly thought he had the real one. I don't know. And this weekend, beginning today, we will soon know which dog is the world's ugliest, because today the Sonoma Marin Fair in Petaluma, California, is holding its annual World's Ugliest Dog Contest. Yep. Last year, a hairless English-French bulldog mix named Petunia claimed the title. Rescued from a hoarding situation in Las Vegas, she overcame significant health challenges, including surgery for a painful, elongated palate. So who will be the ugliest dog in America? I don't know, but maybe they ought to take it to live in the ugliest house in America. And what happened to Amelia Earhart? Well, that question has eluded countless researchers, biographers, and devoted enthusiasts for almost 90 years. And yep, you know about an expedition that's on the way. Well, these guys are pretty convinced that they're going to actually see the remains of her plane. Over the decades, they've searched swaths of the ocean floor, traversed remote islands, and scoured satellite images in very expensive attempts to locate the plane that Earhart piloted with Fred Noonan as she tried to become the first person to fly around the world along the equator. Well, now, after a year-long delay, an expedition that some believe represents the best chance at solving one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century is set to take place this fall. Lead archaeologist Richard Pettigrew told USA Today, "I'm feeling very confident about this." He said, "I am pumped." The voyage will bring researchers to Nicomaroro, a remote Pacific island between Australia and Hawaii, where a popular theory suggests Earhart and her navigator landed after failing to complete their historic journey in 1937. The expedition centers around the Terea object, a visual anomaly in the island's lagoon that was discovered through satellite imagery in 2020. The mission, which is a joint effort between the Purdue University Research Foundation and the Archaeological Legacy Institute, will try to determine whether the object at the water's edge is Earhart's long-lost plane. I think they're actually going to go dive it. Originally set to take place in October of last year, the mission was delayed because of weather conditions and clearance from the government of Kiribati, the island nation that maintains control over Nicomaroro. With new approvals from the government's cabinet, a 16-person team in October will travel by sea to the island in hopes of finding proof of Earhart's final voyage. You already know the story, so I'm not going to bore you with that. But since the crash or the disappearance, millions of dollars have been poured into expeditions that have taken researchers from remote islands to the depths of the Pacific, including in recent years. In 2024, an ocean exploration company conducted a deep-sea search within 100 miles of Howland Island after spotting what they believed to be the wreckage of the Electra 10E. Turned out to be a rock formation. Will they find it this time? Only time will tell. Stick around. Special guest coming up right after this, so stay there.
You've got Dave Elliott.
A minute out for Alice Sweetwaters. You know how much I love Alice's? Well, let me tell you how much I love Alice's. For the last 22 years, I have been telling everybody I can about how great Alice Sweetwaters is. From their fresh-made seafood dishes to their incredible bar, their wild wine list, the ability to eat indoors or outdoors, and I might add, some pretty darn nice gazpacho, you will find exactly what you're looking for at Alice Sweetwaters. Try the shrimp wontons, for example. They're absolutely fantastic. Or the little mini sliders, or the grouper fish and chips, or the grouper dinner, or the grouper Reuben. You get my drift? There's a lot of stuff going on at Alice Sweetwaters, including the best sandwich in America, the lobster Reuben. Check it all out at the corner of Airport Road and Glades Boulevard. Alice Sweetwaters, where they serve crabs, shrimps, and big people.
Have you finally found your dream home, or are you looking to refinance or pull equity from your home? Then call Alpha Title Services of Florida. Don't let fraud or hidden property issues, such as liens, unpaid taxes, boundary mistakes, or a cloud on title, to name a few, ruin your big day. That's why you need Alpha Title Services in your corner. They do the deep digging to complete your contract conditions and assure your title is clear in order to provide the ultimate protection on your family's investment. Before you sign on the dotted line, make sure your future will be truly yours by contacting Alpha Title Services at 239-260-1495. To protect your dream, let your realtor or lender know you choose Alpha Title Services of Florida to handle all of your closing needs. Trust the people who have been serving the real estate community since 1999. Trust the people you can call to ask questions before signing your contract. Trust Alpha Title Services of Florida. Online at alphatitleservices.com or call 239-260-1495.
Are you ready for a culinary experience like no other? Mark your calendars for the event of the season. Sizzle Dining is happening starting September 1st through the 30th. Picture this, a world of flavors, a celebration of taste, and a chance to make a difference in our community. Savor delectable dishes, expertly crafted by top chefs, each plate telling a story of passion and creativity. But that's not all. Sizzle Dining benefits blessings in a backpack of Southwest Florida. Florida, a charity dedicated to ensuring no child has a hungry weekend. Dine with Purpose. Every time you indulge in the exquisite offerings during Sizzle Dining, a portion of the proceeds will go directly to Blessings in the Backpack. So gather your loved ones, invite your friends, and come experience culinary excellence while making a meaningful impact. Share your moments with hashtag Dine with Purpose. Sizzle Dining, taking place the entire month of September, where taste, compassion, and community come together in perfect harmony. Reserve your table today, because with Sizzle Dining, every bite counts and every meal matters.
He's not really old. He's 45, plus shipping and handling. Dave Elliott.
All right, we're back here. Thank you for joining us this morning on a Friday morning. It's 8:15, and as I promised, I want to say good morning to Tony Ceresoli from Blessings in a Backpack. Hi, Tony.
Good morning, Dave. Good morning. How are you this morning?
Did I get your name, the pronunciation of your name right?
Yes, you did a great job. Very good job.
Well, you know, I'm part Italian somewhere in my background, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can tell by the last name. So
yeah,
thanks, Dave.
Elliott. Yeah, that pretty much says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gives it away.
Tell us a little bit about Blessings in a Backpack. I'm sure people are familiar with it, but what have you been up to in the last year?
Yeah, I can tell you that. You know, I'll start from the back and I'll go to the front. We serve every Friday over 8,000 children, school children in Southwest Florida. We feed them we give them a nice snack meal at the end of the day where they can take home for the weekend. But the 2-second story is this. About 15 years ago, there was a teacher that was in an after-school program was noticing a sister with 2 other brothers. And every Friday, she was telling the brothers where the after-school program would give them a snack, don't eat your snack. And she would save it and she would put it in her backpack. And this went on, true story, for a couple months. So finally, the teacher said, what's going on? She goes, we're saving the food because over the weekend, we don't eat a lot of food.
Oh, my.
And that story, and I can tell it in length, if that just doesn't hit the heartstrings. So what had happened was it was a teacher 15 years ago here in Southwest Florida. We were one of the founding chapters that began to obviously raise money, create the association we are. And what we do in a nutshell is we provide children, like I said, over 8,000, enough food. They're not full meals, but they're enough food to get them through the weekend. Because I tell you what, Dave, you'd be amazed. If we're at 8,000, there's another 15,000 we easily could feed throughout for the weekend.
There are, I think, in particular in Collier County, people are astonished to learn that there are so many food insecure families out there. And I recall a number. I don't know if this number is still accurate or not, but a few years ago, in talking with Collier County school officials, they were telling me that something like 60 to 65% of all the students qualify for low-cost or free lunches.
Yep, that is absolutely correct. And the school system does a great job, much better than probably when you and I went to school.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, a much better job. But the point is they stop on Fridays. So, yes, you're absolutely right. It is over 60%. And again, like I said, we feel we scratch the surface and we do the best we can to feed what we get raised, obviously. And for example, Sizzle, what an incredible so that is to give us the more money so we can feed more children.
And this year with 140 restaurants, that means $1 of every meal that they buy goes to Blessings in a Backpack. And I guess they've raised thousands of dollars for you so far.
Oh, absolutely. And I can tell you with Guy, and he's incredible. By the way, last year it was over $70,000.
Can you imagine? How does that supplement your budget?
Well, it's, we right now, as Blessing in a Backpack, we're about $1 million nonprofit. And that's what it takes. And if you look at that number, and I'm so proud of this, 93% of every penny we raise goes toward feeding the children. That goes toward the food, that goes toward the packages, the staff I have. The distribution alone, if I didn't have my program coordinators, I don't think I'd be on the phone. It's just incredible trying to manage all that. So we're proud of that number. And the more money we raise, the more children we can feed. Because I have schools call me every week.
We
can only do what we can do.
Let's look behind the scenes a little bit. How does it work? Do you use volunteers? Where do you get your food? Do you buy it in bulk?
Yep, I can tell you all that. We contract through Cisco. And they are incredible partners, and they sell us the food at their cost, which that in itself, and I wanted to put a plug in for Cisco, that in itself is incredible. They package all the meals. We tell them where it has to be delivered. They deliver in bulk every week to one of our 33 schools we deal with. And at the schools, we either have a volunteer from the school, a counselor, a teacher, or we send one of us. So we don't have a lot of us. We send one of us or our volunteers. We meet there, and then the children line up at dismissal, and it's only the children that we could feed. Okay, and in most schools that we do, we feed about 70, 80%. They line up, we pass them, we give them the bag, they take the bag, and they're off for the weekend.
And
so it's quite a process.
How many meals does each child get on Friday?
They get about 3.5 meals, and again, we would love to put more in the bag, but they get about 3.5. They get everything is just nutritional wise. We try to put a little bit. The key is, Dave. Thanks for asking. Is the children have to eat it. You know what I mean? And I say that because
you don't want to put fettuccine Alfredo in there.
And you know what? And thank you, because I've had some people say, "Hey, Tony, I'm not sure. What is this?" Because we do wheat crackers and we do little chicken bites. They're all nutrition. They're good. And yeah, we put a sweet in there too.
Sure.
The kids like Fruit Loops. Actually, I do too, but this does not say that. Okay. So the point is, we put enough nutritional food in there, but also enough food where the children will eat. And I can tell you, we get so many stories on parents and kids and how much they love the snack packs that we send home.
That's incredible. Now, Blessings with the Backpack has been around for a number of years. Do you have plans for expansion?
Yeah, we this is our 15th year, and I can tell you, we as every good association does, we have a board of directors. We put a 2-year plan together, and our goal is we serve 8,212 kids. That's the number effective right now. We would love to hit the 9,000 mark by the end of this year, and then by 2028, we would love to hit 10,000. So we definitely want to grow.
That's sort of a mixed blessing because you really would like it to be zero.
You know what? And I've not heard that in a long time. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And we're, by the way, we're always in active conversations with the school district, and they're incredible, and they know there's a void there. But again, everybody with budget times can only do so much. So yeah, we would love that to happen, but I see it going the other way, unfortunately.
Well, I think this is an example of the private sector stepping up and doing what government can't, won't, or shouldn't do. It should really be the responsibility of the business community and the people who are the stakeholders to come forward. And the government doesn't need to do everything.
Yep.
And you're a prime example of how that works.
Good. Yeah, and I appreciate that. And it hit home to me because I was lucky growing up. I had parents, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had food over the weekend. But you're right, Dave. Like, I can go on and on and on with people that I talk to that just the children don't have enough food because by the time they get to school back on Monday. So, yes, you are correct.
And I want to thank you for taking a few minutes out to come on and talk about. We're going to have you back in a couple of weeks to get a little progress report on how things are going with Sizzle Dining. But in the meantime, if people want to contribute or help out in any way, how can they do that?
I'm sorry, Dave. What was that?
I said if people can help out or contribute, how do they do that?
Yeah, and they would go to our website. It's a really good, user-friendly website. You have all sorts of information there. You have actually my name, my number on there. And again, like I said, we would do whatever. We work with organizations. We work with HOAs, whatever we work with. So reach out to us there. We'd love that. And Dave, thank you for having me online. As you can tell, I'm very passionate. I'm a passionate director of the program and would love to talk to anyone about how we can move the program forward even more.
All right. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Dave. You have a nice day.
Have a nice weekend. Tony Ceresoli is the head man at Blessings in a Backpack here in Southwest Florida. And as you heard, they're a compassionate bunch of people who do great work in the community. And I'm so glad we're able to help out in a small way. It's 8:24. The Social Security Administration has added 14 new health conditions to its list of those eligible for fast-track disability benefits under the Compassion Allowances Program. With this addition, there are now 314 total conditions eligible for the Compassionate Allowances Initiative, the SSA announced Tuesday. If you don't know what that is, the Compassionate Allowances List fast-tracks the application process for disability benefits for individuals with certain serious diseases or medical conditions. Since the initiative began in 2008, more than 1.2 million people with severe disabilities have been approved under compassionate allowances, according to SSA. The Compassionate Allowances Initiative cuts through red tape and allows us to deliver support to individuals who experience life-changing diagnoses and need help fast, said Frank Basignano, the commissioner of the Social Security Administration, in a statement. The 14 new health conditions on Social Security's Compassionate Allowances list include, I'm not going to read them all because some of them I can't even pronounce, like adenylosuccinate lyase deficiency, neonatal form in type 1. I butchered that. Aicardi syndrome, Barrettser-Winter syndrome, Baer-Stevenson cutis gyrata syndrome, Boeing-Opitz syndrome, cask-related gene disorders, hepatosplenic T-cell lymphoma, Lafora disease, malignant migrating partial seizures of infancy, and others. Almost every one of those unpronounceable, by the way, you notice. None that I've ever heard of, quite honestly, but I'm glad that the Social Security Administration is cutting red tape. Now, my question is, if they can cut red tape for these, why can't they cut them for everybody? Why does there have to be red tape at all? Just asking. Don't blame me. Just asking. Under a judge's order, Florida's Attorney General has rewritten the proposed property tax amendment that'll appear on the ballot in November. You know, they were told that the ballot language was confusing and not appropriate for the ballot. It needed to be rewritten. So earlier this month, Tallahassee Judge David Frank said it was misleading and that parts were more akin to a political slogan. He ordered Attorney General James Uthmeyer to rewrite several parts of the amendment, including the title, quote, "Save Our Homes from Excessive Property Taxes." He said that was misleading. Uthmeyer's office shared the revised language on Thursday. The new title for the amendment is even more complicated. Increased homestead exemption, semicolon. Lower cap on increases in non-homesteaded property assessments. If approved by at least 60% of Florida voters, the property tax amendment would raise the homestead exemption to $150,000 for most Florida property owners in 2027 and up to $250,000 in 2028. The exemption would also increase with inflation. Remember when housing prices were $150,000 to $250,000? I bought my first house in Naples in 1996 for $123,000. Plaintiffs filed a lawsuit in June asking the amendment summary on the ballot to be rewritten. State law and courts' previous rulings have required constitutional amendments to use neutral, clear language. The group and former lawmakers challenging the amendment's wording did not ask for the judge to strike the proposal from the ballot. The rewritten amendment is drier than the prior amendment, which had included summary subheadings that said things like protecting small businesses and ensuring fairness for Florida residents. And I mean, what's funny is that they're the people who know what the law is supposed to be, and they tried to put one past the public, I guess. The new amendment largely uses language suggested by Judge Frank in his order. That includes a section summarizing the plan to have new Florida residents who move after 2026 wait 5 years before benefiting from the higher homestead exemption. One of the plaintiffs, former St. Petersburg Senator Jeff Brandes, has said the plan would be unconstitutional. Uthmeyer's rewrite, mirroring Frank's proposal, would say people who are not Florida residents by December 31st of last year will get the higher homestead exemption on their fifth year to the extent permitted by the U.S. Constitution. His office also removed the language telling voters that the amendment would lead to the full elimination of property taxes. Frank said the actual text of the amendment does not guarantee that. Again, what are you trying to pull here? Instead, the amendment now says the plan would require the legislature to create a procedure for local governments to increase the homestead exemption up to full assessed value and to allow special districts under referendum to do the same. The governor's office authored the initial property tax proposal, but lawmakers amended the language to protect school property taxes. DeSantis has since said he will not campaign for the amendment, but said he will vote for it. If the plaintiffs who sued to change the ballot language have any objection to Meyer's rewrite, they have 10 days to challenge it. So it looks like it'll probably be on the ballot with new and improved language. I don't mean the language will say the words new and improved, but the language will be new and improved. Speaking of new and improved, Kellogg has some breakfast cereal news for you. They said this week they will remove artificial colors from all their cereals by the end of this year. They're going to create official colors. There'll be colors you've never seen before. I don't know. The change comes a year ahead of schedule. Kellogg said last August it would remove synthetic dyes from its cereals by the end of 2027. But the company said yesterday it has identified fruit and vegetable-based juices that will give cereals like Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks their distinctive colors. The company said it's also invested in equipment that will allow it to transition to natural colors. What is an unnatural color? Does anybody know? The company also said it was removing BHT, an artificial preservative, from the small number of cereals that still contain it. More and more consumers are looking for foods made with simple, recognizable ingredients, and we're proud to meet those expectations even sooner than planned, said Kellogg's Chief Growth Officer Doug Van de Velde in a statement. Kellogg has faced pressure for years to remove artificial ingredients from its cereals, which it already has done in other countries like Canada. Do you realize that's a kind of a funny phrase, artificial ingredients? Is there such a thing as a real ingredient as opposed to an artificial ingredient? Could artificial be called fake? If so, what is a fake ingredient and what is a real ingredient? Just wondering. In 2024, dozens of people rallied outside Kellogg's headquarters and delivered petitions with 400,000 signatures asking the company to remove the artificial dyes in BHT. And they're based in Battle Creek, Michigan. I have a nephew who's a police officer in Battle Creek, Michigan, matter of fact. Elsewhere, it looks like we have a border problem. Did you know that? You heard that we have the most secure borders in the world and in the history of the country? Well, the new facility at the Canadian border is on the front line of the president's war against fentanyl trafficking. The port of entry for the Gordie Howe International Bridge in Detroit spans 326,000 square feet. It's equipped with state-of-the-art imaging technology, and it's been under construction for almost 8 years. You can't rush perfection, said one border agent. The Gordie Howe Bridge just recently opened after the president upheld the opening because he was mad at Canada. But you can't rush perfection. The president would agree. He claims an influx of drugs into the U.S. threatens the fabric of our society, using it to justify the imposition of tariffs on both Mexico and Canada. But the $4.6 billion Detroit facility is intercepting more fentanyl being trafficked into Canada from the United States than out. So what? We're buying it from Mexico at wholesale, and we're selling it to users in Canada at retail? Is that what we're doing? The U.S. Border Patrol agent stationed in Detroit told the Telegraph newspaper that opioid smuggling from Canada into the U.S. was not really that big of a problem. They said trafficking from the U.S. into Canada was a more pressing issue, with the drugs first shipped across the southern U.S. border in trucks and trailers and then winding up in Michigan or other places along the Canadian border. Mr. Trump has strained diplomatic relations with Canada by accusing it of releasing massive amounts of fentanyl into America. In an executive order in February of last year, he declared the U.S. faced an unusual and extraordinary threat because Canada had failed to tackle drug trafficking. According to Lauren Biss, a White House spokeswoman, the president is right. Under the president's leadership, we have the most secure border in history, and we're stopping drugs from pouring into our communities to kill our children and grandchildren. The Detroit sector is separated from Canada by water and has 3 ports of entry: the Gordie Howe International Bridge, the Ambassador Bridge, and the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel. I've taken the tunnel. I've never taken either bridge. The international one just opened. Smugglers can also seek to cross the Detroit River, which is 2,000 feet wide in some places, using small vessels that blend in with the usual daytime traffic, or snowmobiles during the winter months when it freezes. So there are other ways to get drugs across into Canada besides the Gordie Howe and the Ambassador Bridges, and that's just a couple of examples. So isn't that ironic? We are charging tariffs to Canada for bringing drugs into this country when the real problem is the drugs are leaving in this country and going there. I suppose you could say good riddance to bad trash, huh? We'll be right back.
You've got Dave Elliott.
Are you ready for a culinary experience like no other? Mark your calendars for the event of the season. Sizzle Dining is happening starting September 1st through the 30th. Picture this: a world of flavors, a celebration of taste, and a chance to make a difference in our community. Savor delectable dishes, expertly crafted by top chefs, each plate telling a story of passion and creativity. But that's not all. Sizzle Dining benefits Blessings in a Backpack of Southwest Florida, a charity dedicated to ensuring no child has a hungry weekend. Dine with purpose. Every time you indulge in the exquisite offerings during Sizzle Dining, a portion of the proceeds will go directly to Blessings in a Backpack. So gather your loved ones, invite your friends, and come experience culinary excellence while making a meaningful impact. Share your moments with #DineWithPurpose. Sizzle Dining, taking place the entire month of September, where taste, compassion, and community come together in perfect harmony. Reserve your table today, because with Sizzle Dining, every bite counts and every meal matters.
When it comes to your health, there's no cookie cutter way to do things. Each person is individualized in their needs and their desires, and that's the case with your hearing too. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, with 2 locations in Naples, one in Colonial Square off Goodlette Frank Road, the other in the Vanderbilt Commons at Vanderbilt and Collier Boulevard, are here to help you. They help you with individualized treatment. You go in for a free hearing evaluation, and if you should happen to need a little help from a hearing device, they can offer you the exact device you need, the exact technology you need for your particular needs. Don't let your hearing get in the way of enjoying your life. They even have devices that can cut out the background noise if you're in a big crowd someplace. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, I've been going to them for years, and I know you should too. Believe me, you will notice the difference right away. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, online at napleshearingcenter.com.
Hello, this is Melissa Blazier, your Collier County Supervisor of Elections, with an important message about the primary election. Collier County voters can cast their ballot early for the primary election. Polls are open daily from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. through August 15th, and locations and wait times are posted on the Supervisor of Elections website. Voters who requested a vote by mail ballot can also drop off their voted ballot at any early voting location across the county. For more information, please visit colliervotes.gov or call 239-252-8683.
Put your phone on D&D. That means do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always sing with me. So put your phone on D&D. That means do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always remember this beat.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Most people out here think that taking care of one another is important. And most people would step up for a neighbor going through a tough time. Most people around here help out friends and family when they need it. But the funny thing is, most of us won't look for help when we need it. Talk to someone if you're struggling with mental health, because most people out here really care. Find more information at loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
The impossible question on the Dave Elliott Show.
Okay, kids, it's time to win some $25 gift certificates to Alice Sweetwater's, or a $25 gift certificate. Maybe we'll give away more than one. You never know. I'm kind of crazy sometimes on Friday. What we're going to do is ask you a question. You know that your responsibility as a listener of this show is, in addition to finding your friends and neighbors to tune in and listen and give them a chance to win, you also will have the obligation of coming up with a clever or correct or funny answer and calling us up or texting us and telling us what said answer is. So if you haven't won anything in the last 30 days and you're a resident of Southwest Florida, you can play today. And here is today's impossible question. What's the number one phrase kids most hate to hear from their parents, according to a recent survey? Number one phrase kids most hate to hear from their parents. 305-699-2665. You can text or call me at that number. 305-699-2665. What's the number one phrase kids most hate to hear from their parents? I suppose you could argue that it's the number one phrase that parents most like to tell their kids, too, for that matter, but give me a buzz or a text right now at area code 305-699-COOL, 699-2665. The number one phrase kids hate to hear from their parents. Let's see if we have a winner here. We'll see, said Tim. Sorry, that is incorrect, but it's a good guess. As a parent, I'm sure he knows that that is a popular thing to say to kids. Number one phrase kids most hate to hear from their parents. You especially hear this, or the kid especially hears this when they say, "Dad, can I get a new PlayStation?" Or let me put it this way. "Dad, can you get me a new PlayStation?" The number one phrase kids most hate to hear from their parents. I do, by the way, I have used "we'll see" a lot, or "I'll get back to you" is another one I use from time to time. 305-699-2665, $25 gift certificate to Alice Sweetwater's, waiting for the answer to be given to me. And if we don't get an answer during the show, I will post it on Instagram and Facebook at The Dave Elliott Show. Please go there, like us, follow us, answer us, because that's how we play the game. One more time, the impossible question. The number one phrase kids most hate to hear from their parents, especially when the kid says, "Dad, can I have my own car?" Or, "I want a new PlayStation." No. I mean, I'm in need of a new phone. My phone is just on its last legs here. I've had it for 3 years. And I would have thought by now that I would have figured out what's wrong with it, but the battery's wearing down on it. But I'm not buying a new one. I'm going to keep it until it's on its last legs. Maybe I could go get the battery replaced. That may be one thing I can do. All right, check us out on Instagram after the show today. Takes me a few minutes to post the reel, but I'll get it up there. And you can answer the question on Instagram and Facebook. The number one phrase kids most hate to hear from their parents. Birthdays today. Guess who's 81 today and doesn't look it at all? Still funny as ever. Steve Martin, a wild and crazy guy. Antonio Fargas, actor from Starsky and Hutch, is 80. Danielle Steele, the novelist, 79. Gary Larson, one of my favorite cartoonists, is 76. Carl Lumley, actor, 75. Jackie Harry, remember her from 227 and Sister Sister? 70 years old. Magic Johnson, 67. Sarah Brightman, singer from Phantom of the Opera, 66. Susan Olsen, Cindy Brady on the Brady Bunch, 65. Emmanuel Bert, 63. Halle Berry, a pretty darn good-looking 60. Actress Catherine Bell is 58. Christopher Gorham is 52. I don't know who he is. Mila Kunis, that 70s show, 43. Is she married to Macaulay Culkin? Or who's married to Macaulay Culkin? Spencer Pratt, 43. Lamorne Morris, 43. Tim Tebow is 39. And Brianna Hildebrand is 30. Happy birthday to all of those people. Somebody gave me an answer here. Let's see what they said to the impossible question. They're ineligible to win. We'll talk about it later. Sorry, that's not it. If you think you know, one person said, because I said so. That's not it. Sorry to say. So keep guessing. Put your answers on Instagram. And you might, who knows, you might win a big $25 gift certificate to Alice Sweetwater's. First person to come up with the correct answer, either here or on Insta, is the winner. In other stuff this morning, what's the secret in your industry that you work in? Maybe you're a mortgage processor or something like that. What is your secret in your industry that isn't supposed to be known? Somebody asked this question on Reddit, and they got some pretty interesting answers. Somebody wrote, a bottle of Windex is basically 95% water, 4% ammonia, and 1% blue dye and fragrance. The most expensive part of the product is the bottle. Online customer service chat, said somebody else, can see what you're typing in the box before you hit send. So if you type what a moron this customer service rep is, and then you don't send it, they saw it anyway. Somebody else said, a preschool teacher said, your children tell us nearly everything about what goes on in your home. I've heard that before. Somebody else, secret from their industry that you probably shouldn't know. A lot of people probably know that when a TV show goes into syndication, some scenes are cut to make room for more commercials. What people don't know is that the show can be slightly sped up as well to squeeze in just a little more advertising, and you're none the wiser. Most factory outlet products, said somebody else, were made specifically for outlet stores and were never sold in the brand name regular shops. So those are some secrets of industries that you probably knew about, but they don't want the consumer to know. I think the window spray one I heard already. 95% water, 4% ammonia, and 1% blue dye. So the most expensive part of the Windex, the bottle and the sprayer, I guess. On this date in history, President Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1935 signed the Social Security Act into law, creating unemployment insurance and pension plans for the elderly on this date, 1935. So if you're on Social Security, say, thank you, FDR. 10 years later, in 1945, President Truman announced that Japan had surrendered unconditionally, ending World War II. 2002, a U.S. military helicopter swooped low over a packed Italian beach so they could check out the hot chicks. The American embassy in Rome admitted several sunbathers were slightly injured by flying umbrellas and beach furniture in Bari. In 2003, a blackout hit the northeastern United States and parts of Canada. 50 million people lost power. 2004, a police chase in Long Island, New York ended when the motorist drove into a backyard pond and tried to smoke a crack pipe just before his car sank. After saving the driver through a back window, the cops charged him with driving while impaired by drugs and several other traffic violations. And it was 9 years later that a couple of thieves in England, Berwick-upon-Tweed to be precise, faced off against police for 5 hours. Patrol officers noticed a nighttime break-in at a cafe and soon had it surrounded. The men refused to come out and even armed themselves with knives. The siege finally came to an end and the men were charged. They had reportedly broken into the cafe for all the wrong reasons, namely, a bite of quiche. Oh, yes, indeedy. A bite of quiche. I'll take it or I'll leave it. I'm not sure which. Going to do it for today. I hope you had a good Friday morning and were informed and entertained. J.C. Bruce will be here with us next week. On Monday, we're also going to be trying to contact our good friend, Commissioner Bill McDaniel. And by the way, somebody said on regard to the impossible question, it's up to Dad. No, that's not right. And somebody else said it's up to Mom. That's not right either. And somebody else said, not today. Sorry, not right. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook and join us right here on YouTube and the DaveOnTheAir.com website for the next Dave Elliott Show.